Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, the installation of the Wixey saw fence digital readout system. Well, I'm as excited as a kid in a candy store today. You saw this featured on my What Did Kenny Get for Christmas This Year show. And you know what, there's a lot to cover today. So why don't we head over to the bench and see what you get when you order this product. You get that box open there. You will find an instruction manual for installation. There is a second box here containing hardware. This one here contains the digital readout unit itself. And this longer package right here, this one contains the rails that will install on your table saw fence rail in order to make the whole system work. Well, I've pulled the table saw out into the middle of the room, and the first step is to join the rails together for the digital system. So it comes with two sections of aluminum track, we'll call it, 31.5 inches long, and you need to join the two pieces together using this dovetail coupling or joiner. So all you need to do is place this. You'll place one bolt in each hole with a washer, and we're going to place it into the dovetail joint in both pieces. There we go. We're just going to loosely tighten all four of those bolts. And then once they're loosely tightened, we will give this a wiggle from side to side. And what that will do is it will allow that bar, that dovetail bar, to set itself properly to join these things perfectly straight. And of course, once I get them joined, I will be checking it with a straight edge. And then once you get that done the way you want it and you're happy with it, you can tighten these four bolts snugly onto the fence. You now need to determine which way that aluminum track is going to mount onto your table saw. And it all is dependent on where your fence lock body is. This is your lock body right here, the section that your handle attaches to, your locking handle. So if this assembly here hangs below your fence, so below your fence's rail, you're going to mount your rail like this. Can you see that configuration there? I'll just show you. It mounts like that. If, however, like mine, your fence body here or your lock body is actually above your rail, you're going to mount it in the opposite configuration, which will be just like this. So before I get any further into the installation, I just want to point out that I am installing this on a SawStop 3 horsepower PCS unit. And this is not one of the recommended or compatible units for this digital gauge. So because of that, I need to do a little bit of modification. And as much as I hate modifying a new tool, it's really the only way to get this to be able to mount. So all of these mounting brackets here that would normally slide into your dovetail track here to mount underneath your fence rail, all four of them, you can get rid of them at this point if you're installing it on a SawStop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be mounting this without those brackets. So I have clamped in place our rail to the bottom of our fence rail, just roughly where it wants to be. It doesn't have to be perfect at this point in time, but you want to make sure that underneath there is no interference. There are no existing bolts that you're going to hit and that sort of thing. While you have it clamped up there, you want to get up underneath and mark for some holes, some mounting holes that we're going to have to drill in our rail. So what I've done is I've come in 6 inches from each one of our pieces of railing and placed a mark with a black permanent marker. So what you want to do is at each spot where you have placed a mark here, in this dovetail track that our joining bar goes in, you want to center punch it right in the middle. And at that point, we'll take it over to the drill press, and at each one of these marks, we will drill a 9/32 inch diameter hole. And now it wouldn't hurt at this point in time to just file off any burrs that you might have on the back end of these tracks where the drill bit exited. Well, it's now time to align our tracks so that we can get it installed. And the way that the digital gauge works is that it attaches to the track, and then there is a plate here that will mount on the stock bolts of your fence lockdown. And as this comes across on the rail, it will contact this plate with rare earth magnets. Then as you move the fence, it will drag our digital readout along your fence length with it as it goes. So because this is a custom installation for a SawStop PCS, what I want to do is I'm going to clamp my railing in place so that when our digital readout rides along the rail, that rare earth magnet will be lined up vertically exactly on the center of the mounting bolt of your lockdown. And now with that rare earth magnet lined up with our mounting bolt, I can slide our gauge out of the way, and I'm going to take a measurement from the edge of our fence rail here to the edge of our track. And once I get that measurement, I'm going to align the fence all the way down, clamping it in place, making sure that it is exactly that distance all the way along to make it nice and straight and true. And then we're going to get up underneath, and I'm going to center punch each one of those holes into our fence rail from underneath. Well, I've now removed the rail, and at each one of these center punched locations, I'm going to drill a number 7 hole and tap it for a 1/4-20 thread. And we'll just test it with a bolt here to make sure that it is a good thread. Yeah, it's great. All right. No problem. So now I'll do the other 3 along here, and then using our setup blocks or whatever method you use, the measurements or what have you, we can bolt this down in place using some longer 1/4-20 bolts, a regular flat washer, and a lock washer. So now that we have that done, it's time to mount the bracket for our sensor. However, I'm a firm believer that every action has a reaction or a consequence, and in this case, it's no different. So let's head over to the fence lockdown mechanism, and I'll show you what the problem is. Well, this bracket has a little tiny lip on it right here, and that lip is supposed to sit right back here on your fence mechanism, and it's supposed to lock in place there like that. Because this unit is not on the list of compatible saws, I guess they didn't expect this beefy of a bracket. So in order to bolt it in place where it needs to go, that little nub is in the way. So I need to grind that off, and that's what I'm going to do with an angle grinder. But as well, because we didn't use the brackets or the mounting brackets that came with this, and we bolted it directly to our fence rail, that creates a problem where as soon as this is bolted on, this is now too long. It's supposed to sit on top there, and it's just slightly too long. So I'm going to take some measurements, and we're going to have to trim this a little short. Okay, and truth be told, there's the piece that I cut off for the length. And here's what our bracket looks like now. And honestly, you wouldn't even be able to tell that it's ever been modified. The more I thought of it, the more I didn't like the idea of an angle grinder, so I actually used a hacksaw and then took a fine file and just polished up the edges where I cut the length off here and where I cut the bracket end off right here. So now that we have this done, we can bolt it to our fence lockdown. Okay, so all we need to do for this is we're going to remove the nut that holds our locking lever in place here. And then once we get that done, we can install our bracket, which just goes right over top of this nut right here, this bolt right here. Ah, look at that. There's another issue. And what is that issue? This slot is not wide enough for this bolt. All right, no big deal. I'm just gonna take it over to the drill press and just drill it a little larger, and then we'll come back and finish the installation. Okay, it actually really didn't take that much to fix that up. It was just a little bit of a filing. So I gave it a filing, and here we are now installing it. Now you just wanna make sure that you don't crank down too hard on your on the nut here. You don't want this to be squeezing your locking mechanism too tight. So we'll just tighten this in place. We want to make sure that our fence will slide all the way across without interfering or without that bracket rubbing on our lower railing. And that's beautiful. That slides really well. And we will just test it with our digital unit in place to make sure that everything makes good contact. There you go, that clicks right in place. And as well, that's great. That just slides along. Make sure that it goes over your junction point here smoothly. And it does. So we are good to go, and we can move on with the next step. It's now time to mount our sensor strip. So what you want to do is give this front of the railing here where it mounts a really good wipe down with rubbing alcohol to get all oils and anything like oils from your skin or any impurities off of that rail. So I'm just going to peel the adhesive backing off of this, and it goes in a certain orientation on this track, and I'll just show you the way it goes on, just like that. You'll see how it has almost like a letter T that will be at the very top. Do not put that at the bottom. So with just a little bit peeled off, we're going to line it up with the edge of where these two tracks align. Just carefully line it up. Just like that. And now very carefully, I'm just peeling it bit by bit, and using a cloth, I'm rubbing it down into that track. All right. There's the first one in place. I love it. But now we have to put the second one in place. And for that, you need a key, which will show you the exact placement. Well, here we have the key, and you can see it has 2 pins on either side of it. And those pins will coincide with these 2 holes here on our strip. So we will place those pins into one side, and as well, making sure that we have our second strip in the proper orientation with that T facing upright. We will place the second set of pins into those holes, and once we get them lined up, we can peel our backing off and do exactly like we just did to install this strip all the way across. And once we get it stuck down, of course, that key can just be popped out of there, and everything will be aligned perfectly. And at this point, you can install a couple AAA batteries in your actual Readout. We will carefully slide it onto the track, and then we can move our fence until it contacts the magnet. That's it. We have now finished the installation, but it's time to calibrate and test. And this is the part I've been dying to do. So let me show you what to do for calibration and testing. Well, the first thing that you want to do is you want to slide your fence over, and you just want to have it so that it is just touching your blade. Okay, so I'm going to say that that's good enough there for now. And now it's time to turn on your readout. So in order to turn on the readout, you just click the on-off button. And you can see there it's showing negative 11.775 inches. If you want, you can change between millimeters and inches up here. If you're running a metric saw, you can easily change to millimeters. For me, I like imperial, so there we go. So now that you have it touching your blade, you just want to push and hold your on-off button to enter calibration mode, and the ABS there will flash, and you've zeroed it out, and you can now just click it one more time, and now you have this zeroed out against your blade. So let's move it over to 1 inch, and we'll do a test cut. And there we go. 1 inch right on the money. There we have it. At 3.375 or 3 3/8 of an inch. So let me do a test cut and I'll see how that works out for us. And again, we'll take our calipers, place it on our board. Oh my. That is sexy. This is awesome. And there you have it. The Wixey saw fence digital readout system. Guys, I haven't had much of a chance to play with this other than here today on the show. So I can't really give you my honest opinion as to how it works over the long term or that sort of thing. What I can tell you is my initial impression of it. It's pretty darn cool. I mean, it really is. I tried it from right up against the fence when we got it calibrated there all the way down to the 36-inch mark. And what I would do is slide it along, put it at 36 and lock it down and then check the digital gauge. And it was right on. And then I'd switch back to a different measurement, 27, 22, 21, 19, 17, 12, 11. It didn't matter. Wherever I put that thing, that's what it read on the readout and that's what it cut. It's actually pretty darn impressive. I haven't got a clue how it works and I don't care how it works. I just care that it does work. So I think that this is going to be a pretty awesome addition to the table saw, a really nice upgrade, and it was absolutely wonderful to get it as a gift. I'm so excited about using it in the shop. It's one of those things that you set the saw to 2 1/4, you lock it down, the digital readout tells you it's 2 1/4, and you cut it, you measure 2 1/4, and you're thinking, that's what it's all about. Right there, that's what it's all about. Guys, I'm really looking forward to using this in the shop. And if it's one of those things that you are considering, I don't know, first impressions for me, I'd say you'd probably do pretty well to get one. Guys, this has been one of those days. I always like new tools in the shop, and I like installing them, and I like calibrating them, and I like the technical aspect of it, but honestly, it is a huge pain in the butt. And I've been out here for hours doing this. Filming and installing this thing, I've gone for about 4 hours now to install this unit. And it's not that it takes 4 hours, it's that I like to take my time. I like to do it properly and I like to get everything square and flush and straight and working perfectly. And that's just the way I am. Plus I'm filming, which adds on to the time, so you may be able to do this a little quicker. I will place a link to this digital output down below. Guys, if you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel and click that bell so that you don't miss the future notifications of the show. This has been a lot of fun for me and I'm looking forward to putting this into action. I hope you've enjoyed today's show, guys. I hope that if you get the opportunity to get one of these for your saw that you will find this to be helpful. And more importantly, I honestly hope that you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays.